Our session just before we break for tea is Gender Bender, Women in the New Age of Cinema. I'd like to invite the panelists for this session. Ms. Tapsi Pannu, actor. Ms. Namrata Rao, editor. And Ms. Atika Chauhan, screenwriter. To be in conversation with them, I'd like to invite on stage Ms. Namrata Joshi, cinema editor, The Hindu. I'd also just like to add that all the sessions are live on the Hindustan Coca-Cola Beverages Private Limited social media handles. Over to you, Namrata.
Thank you so much, Akhila. Welcome to all of you for this session, and especially the three lovely, intelligent ladies I have the privilege of talking to today.
Thank you.
The session is on women in the new age of cinema, and all the three of them have been, participants, facilitators, stakeholders, in a kind of shift that we are seeing these days in the cinema that's coming out of Bombay in particular. They're doing it on their own, they're doing it with allies, and trying to make a difference through that, sometimes with success, and I'm sure there would be equal number of stories which don't come with success attached, but fact is that they've all perhaps kind of gone ahead and broken further barriers at the face of it. My intent with this particular session is to try and demystify this whole image that we see on screen through Tapsi as an actor, Atika as a writer, and Namrata, whose role perhaps is not so much known in the popular culture, which is that of editing. How do you splice and put the images together to create a narrative? The most visible carrier of this change that we are talking of, Tapsi, is you, in terms of the characters that you've been playing all along. Recently won an award, Critics Award for Sand Ki Aankh. I'm told that you're doing a biopic of Mithali Raj.
Yeah.
There is Tom Twyker's Run Lola Run.
Yeah.
You're running a lot.
A lot.
And fast at that.
So much so that I have a film on a sprinter also coming up. So yeah.
Wonderful. But what gives? Because what kind of a sorcery is this? Because I was looking at your career graph. It's now that suddenly things seem to be coming together, and a kind of statement is coming out through them, whichever film you look at, whether Thappad, which is coming out next week, or Man Marziyan, or Pink, or Sand Ki Aankh, what is it that is happening right now and it's not one-off, which is the interesting thing. There's a certain consistency in terms of the characters, the performances.
Wonderful to hear that, first of all, from you. Good evening, everyone. I think this question usually is asked from me in a very, if I may take the liberty to say so, in a negative way. That why do you only do these kind of films? I've been going through promotion rounds for Thappad, and this has been one constant question from everyone who comes and interviews me. First of all, my answer is why not? And then I'm like, honestly, after Pink, I got my trajectory right. I knew, okay, this is what is working for me. I am enjoying doing it, and it's giving me some sort of a satisfaction which I did not get before. I never wanted to be an actor. I started off in South, learned the hard way, made mistakes, a lot of them, but made sure never repeated my mistakes. I would rather learn from my own mistakes than others, but I will never repeat. I'll make new ones, but I'll never repeat mistakes. So that's how I learned. It took me a little while to learn how to act, to learn language, not Hindi, but Tamil and Telugu, and then eventually learn how to choose films. So it was a long process. I'm actually in the 10th year of my career, but people know me only from the last 3-4 years of Hindi film industry, because that's when actually I realized what my path is. And staying consistent, honestly, I don't see it like a very tough deal because after Pink, automatically I started getting those kind of films I had to choose from, and this is what I chose the best of from whatever I got. And these are those kind of films that I was offered. I don't get those kind of films where people might feel, okay, this is a little lesser than the other or not so much in that league. So yeah, so these are the kind of films I always got. So I could only choose from these.
Tapsi, what we are getting to see is what we are getting to see. Behind it, there must be also, say, the one role that you do, 100 more that you kind of say no to.
Yeah, I do. But honestly, most of the time they are not because they're frivolous. It's because probably they don't excite me to go buy a ticket. Because for me, when I judge a script, I hear a script out or read a script and I think like an audience because I'm a very regular middle class person inside here. So when I hear a script out, I feel, will I spend my hard-earned money on it? Will I spend the 3 hours of my life on it? And will I be looking forward to spend that particular theater timing to go and watch this film? That's first. The second is, of course, will I take this character back home? Because I don't want my audience to forget me when they walk out of the theater. I want to go back home with them. And will this character do that? It's okay if you give me 10 minutes of screen presence. I don't mind that. But I'll make sure you take me back home. And then the third one is something that people laugh at, but it's quite true. I want my kids to be proud of my filmography when I show it to them, because one day this is all going to end. And, when I move on to the next phase of life or parallel or whatever, whenever they see it, I really want to show all my films to them.
I'll take a break here from you and move on to Atika because, when we talk of roles and we talk of performance, there are the words, there are the characters, there are the stories. Do you think more women writers coming into cinema is somehow changing the landscape? Or is it that you are pushing for freedom more and more now in terms of what you're delivering? Is there a way that you're deliberately kind of breaking the norms and setting up new ones?
I think both of those things are happening at the same time. The fact that a lot of women writers are finally finding a footing in the industry, and I think there is also a very conscious effort to push the envelope. And I think there's a collective momentum that's built, and which explains why we have already, it's not even March yet, and we already have we have seen 4 female narratives already, including Thappad. Started with Chhapak, and then there was Panga. There's Thappad now coming, and then there is Guilty, which is also one of the films on Netflix, which is a female-led film with Kiara in it. There is Shakuntala coming later this year, and there's a lot more. So this is the first year which has so many explosive female-led stories, female narratives, and they are not diluted. This is not the kind where the savior will be a man. This is not that film. So basically, I think it is finally consolidating this female voice, and it did not happen overnight. It happened because some of us actually just stuck it out, and we kept fighting for the best stories to come out of us. And I personally am that case in point because I have lived a really hard life in Bombay, especially as an active writer for the last 12 years. And it's only now that my voice is consolidating and people are saying, oh, you did so much work, but I've been working very quietly and silently for the last 8 years. And there were no takers for the kind of stories that I wanted to write. And suddenly it seems like I'm in spotlight, but I sometimes feel slightly resentful of people who give me too much attention because I'm like, I've been here saying the same thing all along, and it's suddenly that now I'm in, suddenly in news. But why? I needed to be in news back then too, and not because I wanted to be in news, but what I want to say is very important, and it was equally relevant back then. But you want to now position this because it's convenient for you, and you want to now peg this as news peg. So for me, that becomes slightly, I am bitter about it. A bit, but yeah, it's a collective momentum of lots of female artists, and it's not just, I think the actors need to be, especially the women actors who are taking on these roles. I'm really glad that there's so many beautiful actresses who are now ready to play these agency-led roles, but I think female actors should be really thankful to all the female artists who've been working relentlessly to ensure that there are these female-led roles and characters who finally are finding their, foothold in the world.
Which makes me go to, you, Namrata. You've always been telling me about how editing is one role where a lot of women have been around. It is seen as quote unquote a woman's kind of,
It hasn't been so true in India though. I mean, but yes, traditionally.
Yeah. But you get the raw footage. You get these rushes, which kind of tell a story and from which you refashion a narrative. Have over the years now, how many films have you edited? 25?
More than 25.
More than 25. From the first one to now, do you see, a shift in terms of the material that you kind of are playing with? Also in terms of how you are entering that zone. Were you distanced and how does one say, you kind of look more at the director's vision? Are you intervening now? I want to know those dynamics.
I've always intervened. I've always seen editing as the final toll naka before which, finally the film goes out and people see it. And I've always seen myself as a quiet warrior of the female gaze in the sense that, there are things that I'm not okay with and I wouldn't push them to be in the film. There are many examples of that. There are situations where both the hero and heroine go on the beach and the heroine is coming out in high speed, whereas the man is just coming out, just normally. So, I find these things very problematic because I think through films, not obviously, and editing especially, I'm forming your opinion, I'm also forming how you look at women. And it's all very subtle, so it's not, so it is a very psychological and subtext related thing. But things like these, you can't have a scene like one of the recent fights I had was about a scene where this woman goes on a date anniversary and she gets so upset that the man hasn't got her a gift that she takes the hot soup and puts it on his head. And I was like, who does this? Who are these women who throw soup on somebody's head when they don't get a gift? So obviously I fought a lot and it's thankfully not there, so nobody's seen it. It's only for me to tell the story. So things like that.
So all the behind the scenes secrets and the images that didn't make it,
But I see this more in hindsight. A lot of films I have done have a lot of female-oriented characters. Like Band Baja Barat was one. It was written in a way that it was Bittu's story, Ranveer's story. He was the hero. But finally, when you see it, it's quite equal. And I think that I don't mean it is me, but anybody, any woman would have done it, it would have been like this. But if a man had seen it, I don't know, maybe it would have stayed Ranveer's story more, or a kahani, which for me was again like the story of a woman who's hurting. It was not just a story of a spy who's out there and who's going to, take revenge. I approached it with the notion that she's hurting. She's a mother who's lost a child, a husband, etc. So I don't know, maybe in hindsight, I feel these are the things women bring on the editing table.
Coming back to you, Tapsi, in terms of the roles and this whole idea of women-centric cinema, we've always known it conventionally in a certain way. At one point in time, a woman-oriented film would be all about, one Sati Savitri who's suffering, and the whole element of suffering and kind of coming out of it, was seen as one, Agni Pariksha kind of a thing, which kind of makes you that much stronger. I find a lot more layering happening now, and our reading of it is also that much more layered. We have also started questioning, about the motivations of the character. And in your case specifically, from say a very conventional, nani dadi figure in Sant Ki Aankh, who still despite that goes out and proves herself, to a forthcoming Thappad, where there is a whole journey from a certain vulnerability and denial to a certain control of your own destiny kind of narrative. Again, when you are choosing, do you still get the stereotypes at times in the name of, a strong woman-oriented film or a strong woman's role?
I would rather add one film to these films that you mentioned where I was out and out an antagonist, Badla. I think that film, when it came to me, everybody knows it's a remake of a Spanish thriller. And it was originally, my role was of a man. And the man did that same role in the original. And when it came to me, I was offered the girlfriend's part who dies in the film. I saw the film and I was told, oh, but there is, maybe we'll switch the lawyer's part. So lawyer's part was females in original. So they said maybe we'll flip the female's part into a male. But we're offering you the girlfriend's part who's going to die. So I saw the film and I said, can I play the antagonist? So it was, obviously, I was met with a long pause. And then they said, okay, give us a day to get back to you. And they did get back to me. And because, I knew the producers really well and they were kind and they said, okay, you can do it. And that day I knew that I'm going to raise a lot of eyebrows, maybe in the audience or in the industry, including Mr. Bachchan, because he came on board a little later after I said yes to the film. And his first question to the director and producer was, why does Taapsee want to play a villain? I'm like, I don't know if he sees it. It's that character's journey. So it's that character who's playing everyone all throughout. I think it's the actor's candy. So what has happened is, it started getting boring to see the same character being so righteous from the start to the end for not just us as actors, but the audiences as well. I'll quote what Anubhav sir recently told me, and it is such a beautiful thought. Maybe he put it in words really well. What has happened with us as women is that we've been tricked really bad. We've been told that, I'll use a little bit of Hindi here, that aap devi ho. You've been put on a pedestal. And since you are on a pedestal and higher than everyone there, you are supposed to be more patient, be more calm, have more strength to take in. Because you are a devi, you are up there at the pedestal. So you're not supposed to do the kind of stuff that the other regular people do. So now on one side it's very interesting, we are on a pedestal, but now they have deprived us of feeling the basic, regular, normal emotion a human being wants to feel. So that is where we've been tricked. So now what is happening is we are slowly walking down the pedestal. And voluntarily so. Because we are as normal as anyone else. And we also have our desires. We do mistakes. We want to learn from our mistakes. We are grey. We are not black and white as any other person or the other gender. So that's what has happened. Now slowly the aspirational hero is being replaced by the real hero, which is like you, me, any one of us. And that's where the shift is happening.
Coming back to you, Atika, an interesting conversation I once had with you about politics. And when I mean politics, I don't mean politics in the absolute sense of the term, but I remember December 15th when all of us got very upset with what was happening in Jamia, and we, I think next day grappling with what was happening around us. I remember going to the Kalina campus and I saw you. The first person I saw, later on you all were there at the Carter Road protest, But the first person I saw was you, And you very interestingly told me that you don't see yourself divorced from politics. I mean, it could be gender, it could be issues that bother you. How do you negotiate that, Because that's again a zone where I presume a mainstream industry could intervene and say this far and no further. How do you push that boundary?
So for me, I'd like to actually start with what feminism would mean to me and why I am avowedly a feminist. Actually, in my case, I think I'd like to stake hold on feminism by saying that actually feminism is nothing but asking for equal rights and asking for basic human rights. And if that means that I need to now apply this on everything else, including my understanding of citizenship, for example. I think I would, and I don't, I think it's completely okay for people to toe different political lines, but when human rights are getting violated, I think we need to step out and like, let our voices be heard. And it's only recently that people are giving me some kind of importance, that you even recognize me as somebody who you can put on the stage. But I am just been a regular person with a certain kind of, like a value system, which basically means that I need, and when I exercise my feminism, I never say that women are superior to men. I only mean that I need to peddle gender sensitivity to any kind of narrative that I either, I project to the world outside of me. Perhaps because I have been at, all my life I've been struggling in my personal and professional relationships, balancing this power, negotiating for, more equality, more power for women, because largely it's an unsaid rule in a room, that, so who holds power is basically a man, or somebody who, sometimes a woman can also be playing that role. But the whole hierarchical situation needs to be like flatlined a bit, and that's your constant struggle. So this could be you raising voice against the government, this could be you raising voice against authority, your parents, your value system, or anything. So basically the idea is to just evening the scale of power into an equal distribution. That's all I'm asking for. That's all my lookout as a writer. When you said politics, just wanted to say, like, because a lot of time people think, oh, ye feminist hai, to bas ye feminist writing karti hai. And this is what I wanted to actually explain, that I wanted to say that feminism kahaniyon pe superimpose nahi hoti. Like nobody can take a film and then suddenly like come up with situations or tricks to make a film suddenly look feminist. Either your view is feminist, which in my opinion needs to be an equal balance of a male female equation, or it's not. Like it will not. For example, a film like Kabir Singh, for example, the idea that like a lot of people have said already that all that had to be said about Kabir Singh, but generally for me, I feel that I just need to say this, that a lot of people said Kabir Singh banni hi nahi chahiye thi, and in my opinion, I feel that bilkul banni chahiye thi, because it's a democracy, and if somebody thought of that story, somebody thought of somebody with a borderline anger issues and a borderline abusive temperament, I feel that's a great story to be told, because it's about a person who's completely tortured with his own anger and his own sort of temperamental issues, and how he kind of peddles that to the person who he's in a relationship with. The problem with that film is that what is the largest takeaway from that narrative? The narrative actually silences the female narrative. Like it feels like there is nothing happening to the woman. Like her reactions are not recorded or chronicled in the narrative of the film. And then finally, what is the reward? The hero is rewarded for actually misbehaving through the film, and his toxicity is rewarded. So what it feels like finally is that the male character with his male privilege could get away even after his suffering is something that we need to laud and appreciate and respect and romanticize. That is what made the film dangerous, not the fact that a person who was self-torturing himself with his abusive tendencies, well, that was a completely valid narrative.
A counter, can I call Thappad a counter narrative to Kabir Singh in that sense?
I've been dealing with this statement since the time the poster is out. By saying this, we are actually reducing Kabir Singh about only just that one slap, and we are reducing Thappad to just a mere answer to another film, which will be unfair to both the films. So let's just not do that. Yes, the fact is that we don't believe in that kind of love relationship, is why we have made Thappad and they have made Kabir Singh. That slapping bit is something that is not acceptable in love for people involved with Thappad, contrary to Kabir Singh. I think that's the only thing that connects both of us. Apart from that one line, I feel that Anubhav sir has very slyly taken from that director's interview, that ट्रू लव में तो थोड़ी बहुत मारपीट एक एक्सप्रेशन ऑफ लव ही तो है. So apart from that, I don't think we have really consciously tried to do anything anti Kabir Singh. This is, and when you see, you've seen the film, so it's not like a very skewed take on relationship. We'll show you the man's side as well. It's not just, yes, your protagonist is going to be the girl because there should be one point of view of the story. But it's not like we have shown the man to have no voice, no reaction, no reasoning for whatever he's done. No, you will see the man's side as well, and very different types of men in the film, as many men as women in the film.
No, which makes me want to take the debate a little, kind of make it a little broader, because you as professionals in the industry, when you come in, I presume that a difference comes in through the thinking. Like what she pointed out, maybe you could have also written Kabir Singh and written it entirely differently.
Right.
Or maybe you would have perhaps cut it in a different way.
No, I mean, I try not to go into films which don't appeal to me. Like,
Okay.
I mean, it becomes a very difficult dharam sankat to toe. It's like, okay, I don't believe in this, but I really want my film to be a hit, so what do I do?
So you read the script before you decide whether you want to take
Yes,
up the film.
absolutely.
It's not as though suddenly you are kind of in this cold AC room which you hate being in, and you're kind of given this footage, and you suddenly see things and says, oh, what is happening? How do I?
No. And I have my trigger words and I have my red codes with certain actors, with certain directors. I don't want to go there because I know that it will not be very fruitful.
I agree with Namrata there. Like, I don't allow myself to get to that stage where I will be vulnerable or I fall prey to this sort of negotiation which I'm dealing with as an afterthought. I think in the beginning only, which is why I was saying that actually your politics comes before your writing. It comes before your craft. You cannot superimpose it, which means that you need to make that choice, and very conscious choice in the beginning of the project. Either you could be writing it autonomously, or you could be co-creating with somebody. But you cannot negotiate for feminism later, or equality of view or gaze later. It has to be enacted on at the point of co-creation. So it can't be something that you superimpose at the end.
Also, I think behind the scenes, we work in a very, very male-dominated space. It is very male, so, you learn to negotiate it your own way, and then to add the extra pressure is a little difficult,
Okay.
Because you learn to figure out a way. You're always in a room of 20 people where 19 people are men.
Yeah.
19 of them are men, so it's always like that. So,
But is that male conditioning and male perspective also changing? And again, I'm kind of going to go a bit to you, Tapsi, because, a film like Badla, with Mr. Bachchan there, you were right, kind of there, perhaps making a bigger impact in a way that your characters had the kind of shades it did. Thappad, and before that even Chapak, I noticed that, the hero, like here we have a guy that we've not seen so much on screen. Pavel playing your,
Yes. Yes.
Chapak had
Vikrant, yeah.
At one time it would have been unimaginable to think that any man could play a quote unquote, if I may say, secondary role to a woman in a woman-led film,
But let me burst your bubble. Even now, they don't want to.
Tell me more, let's
And I can give you, every film of mine is an example of that. You think, Pavel is a wonderful actor and deserves to be where he is in the film. He's been struggling for way too long in the industry, I feel, and now he's finally going to get his due. But it's not like we wouldn't have liked a bigger name, so to say, to be in the film. But who would have done it? There have been films that have had, let me be fair, 60-40. Like maybe my presence on screen is 60% and guys' presence is 40%. I'm talking about screen time, not the impact of the role. And I've heard from the leading men saying things like, and they are, mind you, let me just give you background of that leading man who's not even leading right now. He's just done one film in a big ensemble cast and potentially working on 2, 3 other films with, again, not like helming from, I'm leading from the front, one of the 2, 3 other people in the cast. And then he tells the director and the writers that I've been advised at this stage of my career, I should not be doing a film which has got a character relatively lesser than the female protagonist. Trying to understand what is the stage of the career. And then I have had another man who is a tremendously good actor, very, very good actor. In my head, I thought no one can be more secure than a good actor. He's a star, but a very good actor as well. Again, offered a film which is a love story. And maybe I can just say the fact that the girl dies in the 3/4 of the film also. But he's still not okay because the sympathy will be with the girl. So, it's a girl's film. I'm like, I'm dying in the film. And you can please take the film forward after that. No, but it's written in such a way the love will go to the girl more. And that's coming from a very good actor. And because I had had enough of it, I went and told him on his face, as I didn't expect this kind of an insecure behavior from an actor like you. Because it's just getting too much. And every film of mine, we obviously try to reach out to the best possible choice for the actor, but no, it's not been happening. Otherwise, why will a big star like Deepika Padukone wouldn't want someone who will be like, as experienced as her to be there with her in the film? Same goes with Kangana.
Yeah, in Panga.
I am relatively newer, but
Yeah.
still.
Yeah, even Panga, now that I
Yeah,
look at it.
so that's the case. And none of us had that big an issue, or we have done films where we are not 40%, we are barely 20% in the film. And it's okay. We were like, okay, fine, we'll do this film and we'll do that as well. Even now I've done a Mission Mangal. I did a Surma last year where I was playing love interest of Diljit Dosanjh, who has done, 2 films in Hindi? And I've done quite a lot, which is okay. For me, I knew those few scenes are enough for me to make an impact. But such is the case, our men are not that comfortable sharing lesser screen space.
What about their portrayal? I mean, how does a woman writer, a woman editor, you were telling you love editing when Ranveer Singh is on screen, on, the kind of vibe that he gives you as an actor. You were saying that, men perhaps need to be reimagined on screen. And how would that impact, say, a performer like Taapsee? Will it make things a lot more democratic, for the lack of a better word? A bit about how you can change the men.
I mean, at the editing stage, of course, like how she said that a lot of people don't do it. And then on top of it is the director's bias also of how they see the world. And in the world they see, men are always the bosses, men are always the top dogs, etc. So, I mean, I guess what we can do is try and chip away at this system, little by little, scene, or a line by line, and then hope that, like I'm doing a film called Jayesh Bhai Jordar right now, which has Ranveer Singh in it, which is what I was telling you about, where he's playing a very weak man. He's playing a man who doesn't stand up, and, I mean, of course, then it's a journey of a man like that. So I feel people like him, secure actors like him who can play slightly weaker men and also set the men free, I mean, men don't have to be strong all the time. They don't have to always have it together. We are all human beings and it's fine. And our films don't say that. I think our films give us this really wretched and very weird way of looking at love, romance, life, emotions, that men are supposed to be like this, women are supposed to be like this, and then we just bear that burden all our lives, So, I mean, as an editor, I always try to choose films and then put myself out there in the sense that what would I do if I was in this woman's place? What would I do, like in say an Ishkia, when a husband is killed and I want to take revenge? Of course, a woman would like to take revenge, maybe. So, like, make it okay, make it normal.
What about you, Atika? Your writing of
For-
male characters?
Right. For example, I think Chapak is a great case in point because it recently released, and even if some of the people have seen that film, like when we were writing Vikrant Messi's character, which is Amol, we knew that this is a man who kind of mansplains, who has like an overbearing side to him, but he intends well, and therefore we were kind of negotiating their power game through the film. We actually wanted to represent that. We wanted to chronicle a man who comes with the right intentions and yet needs to be put in his place every once in a while. And I think that is where I think there's something really strong inside me which really wanted a scene where I just wanted the female character to take back her agency or reclaim her agency from the male voice. And that is why that scene came along where, in the party scene, Deepika's character actually says, आपको लगता है कि तेज़ाब आप पे फिका है, but actually मुझ पे फिका है और मुझे पार्टी करनी है. And basically she kind of like says, don't mansplain, boy. Like, and for us it was like a great moment, and it's done really quietly, almost like with a light note. But the idea is, do not take my narrative away. This is not your film, this is mine. And for me, this has largely been, so it's not like it has to be very fierce and at the cost of the male narrative, but the idea is to finally take claim of what has largely always been a very diffused and a very confused space of what is a female narrative. Female narrative, like you were saying, is normally the idea of the mythology of Sita that is being reinforced. Even like everything is basically the heroine is the Sita who basically needs to be saved or will
And
basically
waiting, forever waiting,
Forever
to be
waiting
rescued, to be saved, to be
and then
redeemed or something.
Also seen when you talk of a strong woman, also perhaps seen in male values, And I'm
Yes.
remembering a tweet of yours recently,
Right.
Tapsi, when you were told that she's our female Ayushmann Khurrana, and you shot back saying, "But I am who I am." Or I'm paraphrasing
I'm
you.
the first
you know?
Tapsi Pannu, let's just say it like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
I mean, I've been hearing that a lot lately, honestly, and the person who it was coming from is a very dear friend and producer of the adaptation of
Tanuj.
Run Lola Run. And he didn't mean it that way. But the point is, it has been normalized to such an extent that we don't even think that maybe this compliment is not really a compliment. I mean, I was like, I can reason out and explain it to you that, before Ayushman actually struck gold, I had done a film like Pink. I had done a film like Baby. I'm between two industries at the same time, doing decently good work, which is rare probably for any actor to manage. Then why am I being judged basis what Ayushman has achieved? I mean, brilliant, he's been doing a great job, but I don't want to be benchmarked. Okay, this is your benchmark. You have now reached Ayushman benchmark. Then you will reach whatever, Ranveer Singh benchmark. Then Ranbir Kapoor benchmark, Amitabh Bachchan benchmark. I mean, are these benchmarks going to be set for women that this is where you have to go and achieve those? So I just found, I replied instantly, very naturally, because it has been happening. I've been hearing this a lot lately. So it just spontaneously came out, and I never thought it's going to invite this kind of attention from everywhere. But I don't regret it. I mean, that I genuinely meant it. Let's relook at these things that we have normalized over so many years.
Does the, again to you, for you in particular, Atika, does the quote-unquote burden of female narrative, quote-unquote female narrative, does the, sorry, can you hear me now? Yeah, I was saying this whole burden, quote-unquote, of, again, quote-unquote female narrative, would you do something which is completely unexpected of you, you say that you made a point where you said that you approach, you already have a certain sense of politics which comes before what you write. But say some situation, a fantasy or a superhero film, do you see yourself getting in that zone at all?
Absolutely, because I am equally, like a creative person with varied sort of like creative fantasies, and I want to do all kinds of genres, and these are my craft fantasies. So I don't want to because just because I want to do stories which are about equality at their core does not mean that I want to limit myself or only do boring narratives. They need not be female led, but whatever they may be, they should have the balancing of power between two genders. Genders is something I need to negotiate. That is all what I look at. Like right now, I'm currently doing a war film, and this is a film about men without women. This is a film about how women are absent. There are no women in that film, and yet it is about the feminine in those men, because it is actually exploring their masculinity and looking at what the hero's arc is, examining that. So I feel there is so much more scope outside. If the minute I step out of the the Hindi film hero narrative, there are multiple narratives to be told. There is the whole non-binary gender spectrum to be explored. There are so many voices that are needing to be tapped into, and it's not just the women that needs rescuing, like Namrata said. It's actually the men who need rescuing from their own myths. Men are like waiting to be explored, because they never get explored in their true three-dimensionality. They always get the only thing they get to play is basically a macho man, and they're just playing those roles without even like doing any kind of soul searching. So for me, I feel this is the right time to actually balance that power within these male characters. I'm very happy to take on male narratives. It's not like, but because and there's another thing that I want to say additionally to this, is that a feminist voice or a feminine gaze is not just the responsibility of a woman writer. It is everyone's duty. It is actually as much the duty of a male creative. And there are few male creatives who have taken up and have evolved themselves and have questioned themselves and are constantly exploring and pushing the envelope and the boundaries, because with each film they have grown and they have explored that ambit. But I feel that I am that writer who wants to write all kinds of film, and I mean, I'm happy to take male narratives as much as I'm happy to do female narratives. All I want to do is give equal power to both the genders and make it a gender sensitive film, even when I'm doing actually a thriller or a fantasy or actually a I don't know, teeny bopper drama or something like that. But the idea is to just be very sensitive to how you're balancing the power.
So, I mean, the crux of the matter is to kind of more power to women and rescue the men.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I think it's
quest-
also the normalizing. Like,
Right.
it's not just about making feminist films, it's about also putting out strong women imagery,
Right.
which is what you consume, and you think it's okay for women to do everything, just like it's okay for men to do everything. So films really have the power to do that.
Yeah.
Also constantly question heteronormative roles that we show on screen. For example, you have a film. There was a recent film, I don't want to name the maker or whatever, but I'll just give the scene. Like, it's about a couple which are separated, and they have a child in the hospital, and there was a scene of unintentional sexism that plays out, which really disturbed me because I was really angry. Because it's about a couple which are separated, and the child, and they are now kind of reunioning because of the child who's in the hospital, and there's a bunch of school friends, college friends, who come and visit them in the hospital, and they all go back to the house, which is the man's house, and the ex-wife comes along with them. And it looks like when they were in the college, they were all a bunch of friends, right? So they've all cracked jokes together. But the minute this ex-wife walks into the house, joins the domestic staff, and she starts cooking in the background. And the man, he huddles together in the living area, and they start like clinking their glasses and start drinking and cracking up jokes. But I was like, wait a minute, excuse me. they were separated. Why did she suddenly start behaving like a wife? Is nobody going to question that? I have no problem if she does behave like a wife, because if that is the beat, the emotional beat that this character is going to go through, that, you know, the fact that their intimacy, because they were husband and wife at one point and their intimacy got revived in this moment because of this situation that they were brought
Yeah,
into,
that's why
then
she's
that's an
cooking.
emotional, then that's an emotional beat that needed to be chronicled into the script. Where did that go? Because how is it that why are we normalizing this? Just because she's a woman, we assume that she's going to go and basically, you know, stay behind in the backdrop and like bring drinks and snacks to the men who are now cracking jokes. What just happened here? And so for me, it was like, well, this is what I'm questioning. This is what I'm questioning, that these are those unintentional sexism cases which abound in our writing. And this is something that we need to constantly comb through, you know, like I think it is a responsibility of both male and female writers. And it's not like I'm not guilty of making these mistakes. I think I am constantly questioning myself and constantly asking myself, am I also falling back on my middle class values? Did I do something which was like sexist? Did I say something? Did I slut shame someone when I thought of this? What am I doing like constantly? Because I'm sure I'm also an equal carrier of the same misogyny that we've all grown with. So, you know, this is.
But so long as we question, I think
And,
that's the,
and there's one more thing that I just wanted to say that.
Atika, you know, we have to invite questions. Maybe in the course of that,
Yeah.
you could, you know, kind of elaborate on that. Yeah, please. Just introduce yourself also, please.
Yeah, good evening to the panel. Yeah, my question is to Tapsi. And now you are campaigning for introducing of disclaimer against women in CBFC.
Sorry, your voice is echoing.
Now you are campaigning for introduction of disclaimer against
Yes.
women in CBFC guidelines.
Yes.
Just as an outside creative field, I appreciate and that one. But
Thank you.
long time within the creative field, many filmmakers are not even happy with the introduction of disclaimer with smoking, alcohol, or animal welfare board clearance. They are much struggling on those areas only still.
I think what the problem is, it's not the disclaimer in the beginning that is a problem. I think people have been fighting this because suddenly when there's a smoking scene or a drinking scene, on that particular frame, you suddenly have this disclaimer which distracts the audience. I think that's what a lot of filmmakers had an issue with, not putting a disclaimer otherwise. That's totally fine, and that's what we asked for, that if this is harmful, you know, there was a statistic study that the marketing team came up with, that there are probably 3 out of 10 men or women who die because of smoking. But there are 3 out of 5 women who are going through domestic violence. Why don't we consider it as harmful as that? So that's why the whole study and then coming up with this petition to put it up before the film with other disclaimers, like no animals were harmed. We are really worried about animals getting harmed.
Women were harmed.
Yeah, so like that. So just there, not like in between, suddenly you stop and pause and you have only this thing going on. Please don't preach domestic violence. No,
Yeah,
like
just
not.
I wanted to add one thing. Even in 2016, when filmmakers gathered with Shyam Benegal Report Committee, which submitted to Information and Broadcasting Ministry to bring changes in CBFC guidelines, this also has to be taken care, but government yet to implement this one. I mean, whatever the guidelines of National Women Commission and Child Rights, that major guidelines that has been covered in that one.
Yeah.
Shyam Benegal Reporting Committee, which has been submitted to Government of India, but it has yet to be submitted. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
we
it
can
has
only
taken care.
hope for the best to happen.
But they have, as for remove of all the disclaimers, including alcohol, smoking, and this one. Yeah.
See, all I'm saying is in a country like India, people keep asking me, does it really make sense to put all these disclaimers or say that you should not show this in films or that in films because it's creative freedom and all that. You know, you're talking to people where in our country, one hairstyle in Tere Naam, when it happened. You walk on the street, you have half the boys with that hairstyle. That Pyar Dosti Hai has ruined our childhood. Okay, so you're talking to that kind of an audience which gets influenced so badly with the films. We are not European American audience. We are Indian audiences, we are passionate about films. We love our stars. We love our films. So whatever we see there, it's like an aspirational value. So that's why these small, small things, taking up the responsibility of what we are showing on screen, show negative characters, show grey characters, show all these wrong things, but then there should be an ultimate payback for all this, you know, there's some kind of repercussion of all this. That's why all these things need to be done.
Thank you.
There's a gentleman there. Yeah.
Again, welcome, Ms. Tapsi. The Forbes India portrays you as a girl with, no fear, unstoppable like that. And we know you as an Infosys Tapsi. But overall, you are a sports girl.
Yeah.
How would you like to motivate the Indian women? Because whether it's after marriage or after pregnancy, they all become. And we are the capital of diabetes, so we wanted to be the ambassador for diabetes prevention. How would you like to
I
address?
can only lead by example, sir.
Yeah,
That's exactly what I can do. I promise I will not become that unless and until I fall terribly ill. I can only lead by example. That's what I'm doing.
That's more than enough, yeah. I hope that Hindu will support us.
Thank you.
Mrs. Taxi. Could you hear me?
There's a lady here.
Yeah.
I'm Geeta Arwamudan, I'm a journalist. And I just want to know whether...
Mrs. Taxi, what's your experience?
Excuse me, sir, she's already asking a
Sorry,
question.
who's
The lady
speaking?
here.
Okay.
Yeah, ma'am.
Can I
You
continue?
can continue.
I think only the Malayalam film industry has Women in Cinema Collective, which takes care of
Yes,
women.
yes, yes.
Do you have anything like that in the Bombay film industry? And if not, why don't all of you get together and do something about it? Because I think it's a very, very important and essential thing for
Alliance
protective
the
of women.
like-minded.
Yeah,
I
actually,
am a part of the WCC.
Yeah,
Women in
okay.
Cinema.
we tried. We tried. We are still trying.
But you
Let's
don't,
just say that.
Wasn't there a screenwriters?
But that's
That's also.
but do you feel that there's no hope for it in
No,
Bombay?
I am very hopeful.
Yeah.
But we are trying. That's all I can say. But we did have this thought because we had Parvati come to us and we had good discussion regarding how they work out there and what all they do. It's tremendous. I mean, I keep applauding her for whatever they've been doing. But I mean, alone I can't do much. I can only support whenever such idea comes out. I'm always there to push it. But I think we are still trying to get everyone together.
It's very
to do
sad
something.
that one of the largest film industries in the country
It is.
doesn't have anything to protect women.
It is sad. It
No,
is
but
sad.
it is happening. I think we are all supporting each other now. It's really starting.
It's slow, yes, but we are hopeful because we know people out there, they are doing, in individual capacity, women are standing for each other in the industry. We might not have an organization right now, but we know if there is any issue, we have support inside the industry.
Yeah.
Yeah, the gentleman there, he was asking a question.
Yes, reflector.
One small question, Mrs. Taxi.
Yes, sorry? I can't hear only what they're... So, yes,
Sorry,
sir?
sir, you're not audible.
Yes.
Yes.
Shall I ask?
Yes, sir. Please ask, sir.
Will you please express your experience when you act in Tamil film Neeravi Paravai as one loyal wife keeping her dead body of the husband in her own house and expressing everything to his only son. Could you remember that film Neeravi Paravai?
No, sir.
No, sir, means you forget acting, you
No,
become
sir, I
social
can't hear.
activist.
Half the thing I can't hear only because I'm not, you're echoing so much that I'm not able to.
That's my mistake. The mic is here.
What did he say? I can't understand his question.
There's a lady here who wants to ask.
Yeah.
Tapsi.
Madam,
I hide a lot of bodies. I've been hiding a lot of bodies of after murder. I'm supposed to be the ideal choice for all murder films. Yes, sir. What do I tell about the experience? You want me to say I really enjoyed hiding the body, and I don't know,
serious. Madam,
experience.
really, that film, your character It's really something wonderful, something, what I can say, it's really appreciated by all critics. It's normally a normal heroine life.
Hi.
Thank you, sir.
Don't chat,
I
ma'am.
appreciate that. I could not understand your question, sorry, but thank you so much.
There's a question here.
Hi. My name is Samhita and I'm a writer. And my question is.
Sorry, Tapsi madam, without understanding, how can you say thanks?
Sir, because I can't understand your question, I can only thank you.
You take up the question outside, then I think
Yeah,
one-on-one would be-
I'll answer your question one-on-one, sir.
Did
You
it-
sit outside and talk in detail.
Yeah, meanwhile, the
About
lady
You're
here
an
has a...
activist,
Yeah.
not actress.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
Sorry, my question is this. The Me Too movement has sort of affected all of us outwardly as well as internally. I'm really curious to know how that internal churn, has it affected the own material that you produce as editors, as actors, as writers? And is it also changing the kind of stories we're seeing? Is the reason that we're seeing 5 feminist-centric, female-centric stories coming out a result of that? Do you see a connection? Thank you.
I mean, it definitely catalyzed my voice. It's the reason why I took on Guilty. It's something, and it's actually deals with Me Too and rape in a very head-on sort of fashion. We also realized around the time that actually women will, just because of your gender or your sex, you will not automatically be a feminist. Feminism is something, it's an awakening emotion, and it's like nobody is just born woke. I think Me Too did that to a lot of us because it made us question, and it kind of brought that exploratory nature of this calling out your own self into a lot of our stories. So I think I was writing Guilty around that time, and when you see the film, it's going to release on Netflix on 6th of March. It is actually about this conflict that a lot of us, even women, kind of confronted. So it did affect me a lot. I'm very grateful to the movement. I have kind of like almost suffered from the backlash of it because I really put my head on line by kind of like really opening out and like, saying things out in the open. And I think it did affect some of my work opportunities, and a few male creatives did distance themselves from me around that time, and even now perhaps. But I mean, that was it. It did impact me a lot as a woman, as a feminist, as a creative, as a person who's pursuing this craft. That's my take.
Also, I think it brought upon a lot of solidarity, which was really, really welcome, in the sense that a lot of women, when they put themselves out there, it was almost like a reflection of your own experiences. I mean, everybody who's been in the film industry understands that. So I think it was a great moment of sisterhood as well. And education, because patriarchy is so ingrained that even my gaze is male. I mean, I've grown up like that, so I have to educate myself every day that this is the way I've been conditioned to think, and this is not the way it is.
I think as an actor, I just see the difference behind the camera. People are little more wary of their behavior on the set, making sure it's not trespassing that line of respect. And in front of the camera, at least, I think the kind of films I work, they're already way too conscious of the female character. And also more because every time I come up with a film and then come back to a film set, they're like, now we have to be even more careful of what we are showing you doing in the film, which I'm very happy with, honestly.